Hello everyone, today we are today in class, we're going to be looking at Kohberger, but we're going to look at Dylan. Okay, so 1 minute. I realised I had chewing gum in my mouth and it would be rude to sit and go. I was wondering whether to do Richard Allen and the title was going to be The Wrongly Convicted Man and go through some stuff. So by the time you see this, not members, but subscribers, or maybe both, you might have seen the Delphi edition that I just put up, new one. If you've not seen them, it's a good chance to catch up because you will see that who I believe is involved, which is more than one person, and that Richard Allen didn't do what happened. You will see who I probably want to dive into his energy a lot more. And I'm going to give you some info of the person that would have committed this, which also gives you a bit of information on energies surrounding this because there's more than one person. Or this coverage. So we're going to go with this, but don't forget to like, comment, and if you're commenting on the videos in general, trying to help it, and I mean one subscriber in particular, please don't. You've done enough. You do so much, and I don't want you to feel obligated because of trying to help the channel. I see everything and I truly appreciate it, and I will forever be loyal. So today we're going to look at BK, but first I want to share something with you on JS and DM, the initials of those two. So, and then I want to dive into looking at law enforcement. The reason we're doing this, by the way, is to actually point out where maybe certain individuals should have been investigated and possibly where there's been issues, because that's how we learn not to just mask over stuff. So in the last read you would have seen I actually said I think things are getting flimsy because, you know, with a jury trial you can put your role in but it can go absolutely a different way, and that proved in the cards. So what I want to do is, why I'm saying this is because I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. However, there is a secondary energy, and there is also an orchestrated energy. So even that secondary energy, it's not like they met to discuss what they're going to do, etc. It's like orchestrated, without each kind of knowing, if that makes sense. And then there's individuals that should have been investigated, and just really highlighting. So if you need to take it as a movie, please do, because I don't take it also lightly that I'm diving into victims that are survived this, and I cannot think how difficult it could be. I just want to share a couple of stuff that I've looked, that I seem to have stepped on since I, you know, identified secondary energy, and also a bit of sus around a lot of stuff. So I did mention JS's family being quite well connected, wealthy, but also possibly not connected only because of the money, but there's also power there, but also what they might invest in the state. So both of them are medical doctors and give generously to the University of Idaho. So that's the connection that I was getting. there's something about related to an Attorney General of the state of Idaho at the time of this incident. And so, if that is correct, what sort of power and privilege did that beckon on? And what happened here? Because there was no trace of him being dragged into interrogation for hours or held for interrogation. Would anyone else have been treated the same? And so I posed that question. I also understood is from the documents is that, again, listening in and out, so you might correct me, is that JS actually called the sheriff in charge of this case and said, "Can I speak to you?" And the person had missed the call. And when the person got to the voicemail, JS was already calling back to try again. And I think it was like a couple of hours later. But when you have information, you'd call and be like, "Yeah, I saw the person last night. If you need any additional information, let me know." Would you call 2 hours later? Is that a bit eager? Is there more information there? Is there a fear because he was on camera? Is there a fear because he'd spoken to Maddie, maybe said something to Maddie? I think there's something around him saying, you need to be careful or something. I can't remember where I read it. Like, I can't remember what he said exactly. And I don't take the situation of somebody lawyering up straight away being sus in such things at all. So I'm not with that. There is a rumor that I caught on to when I was looking into this that he left the country for South Africa. Also that evening, he drove to Boise, where Boise is where also he knew Dylan or was in a class with Dylan. And Dylan's mother is an attorney. Her stepmother works for the state of Idaho. So, with again not reporting the crime for hours, 8 hours, seeing a perp in the home, masked, passing you, there's a question there. Would you be able to lock yourself in a room with Bethany and just sleep until the next day? Again, a question posed. Don't forget, I have channeled what things of that evening, so you can go to that. And one of the very first readings on this, I'd go back about 5 readings from this, I think 4 or 5. I said that there's someone around that's not the person they present themselves as. And I meant someone in particular and a female. Now connect the dots. But that doesn't mean that they were involved in this to doing. It could be that there was some jealousy, some other stuff happening that was not of great energy in the background, and I will go into that. So some people might be asking, were they not looked into because power and privilege? What was it? You know, JS lived on the Queen Road or Queen Street, which was just off it, and we've gone into some information on that. And he also was seen, and he took a 5-hour drive to visit his parents in Boise. And I think that was the very early hours of the morning, or their hunting cabin. with that, the DoorDash delivery driver seemed to describe that she saw a male in a car with blonde orange hair. So again, I go back to where I said in my readings, the police didn't actually know that they had spotted the Elantra exactly his BKs all the time. And I'm going to go into why didn't they arrest him. Is it to do with not actually being able to pinpoint only BK's Elantra, searching Hyundai Elantra in that area is going to open it a lot more, isn't it? Or could they see the plates? Something, did he change the plates? Did he mask the plates? I'm not sure about, I don't know about that, but I am getting that something about the plates. But I don't repeat my readings because it's there for you to see, and I don't want to bore people that are actually following. So these do pose questions of, is there something more going on? And then with these documents that really don't answer much, it doesn't help either. So what I just heard as well is that, which to me is also, again, it's not something that I would take as very fishy, because in certain circumstances you don't know what to say, because some people might say that, oh wait, the truth is always the right thing to say, but you can panic because you think this looks sus, even though it's the truth, and even though I've got nothing to say about it, especially when you hear things like the Richard Allen case. So Dylan had apparently said she had got drunk that evening at the party, but apparently there's been a witness that said she wasn't drinking. Now that could just be like, I was drunk, I didn't know what was happening. And if she did, it's just a college student. But I just want to ask that, is the truth to that? Is it in the document somewhere? So yes, she wasn't. She wasn't. Yeah, look, she wasn't drinking that evening. I get a confirmation. That does not tie her to anything, but what I'm saying in general, it's just all things that we're gonna fill in the pieces. To me, that does say there's something about her that is not showing clearly. But at the same time, I do get an energy of this. It's written in her destiny to be in fame for this tragedy, for this trauma. That's what's coming through with that. She's not someone who's confrontational. That's what I get with that. She's not someone who would be very confrontational. Maybe that's why she did hide out. But I do get with these cards is that her fame is for the tragedy and for the trauma that's been inflicted. So what else, Spirit? There's nothing that she's hiding in terms of this case, is there? But there's a lot of male energy here. Okay, we get two kings. We get King of Pentacles, King of Swords, and Knight of Swords. So there's something here that she's hiding. That connects to that, but I don't get a confirmation she's hiding something. Yeah. So there is something she's not presenting as she is, which is what I channeled in my readings last. She's not presenting as she is. There's something there and it is hidden. Here we do get also showing that the clear that she wasn't drinking. There was no delusion. There's no being drunk. So clearly that is something that she had said is not, but she's definite. There's some masking. She's not presenting who she really is. And I get that she sometimes might present as someone who is a bit confused, not aware of what's happening, when in fact there is something that she's clearly astute to that some people might feel like she doesn't know, okay? And that does not mean that she is, you know, take it as you wish to. I'm not stating that she was part of what happened, okay? So I want to ask, did law enforcement investigate victims, which they should have done, right? Or the survivors, sorry, were they fully investigated, looked into, or was it just like, you know, these are also victims that happen to have survive? So, you know, you need to look into everything, don't you, to outrule. So did law enforcement actually investigate the survivors and their story? Was it properly investigated? No. No, it wasn't. They weren't fully investigated. So it was more or less taking their word for it. I've got my full card to confirm that. So in this instance, it's okay, but you can get cases where there's survivors and they're involved, you know, and they know more stuff, right? So something there, their story was just taken as is and fully believed. What I understand is also one of the survivors, which we've discussed in this edition, has got a GoFundMe of like 140,000 raised or something like that. What is that for? You can't be angry because people are paying towards it, but sometimes I do question, and because I don't think money can compensate such trauma. The DoorDash delivery driver too many cards fell out. The top row is BK, the lower row is JS, and I'll tell you the question. With what fell out, I did see a major arcana, but it didn't. It was like a bundle of cards. Top row, did the delivery driver actually see BK? We know he was there, he did it. And I've also channeled that and I've had visions. No. No, she never. Did she see the bottom row here? Did she see JS? Yes. I got my confirmation, but let me show you the cards as well. We've got my confirmation of the Temperance card. We've got a page of wands, a young person. Look, pay attention to the hair color, orange, yellow, and look at this, at the scene of the house where the D-E, the rest of the letters, 3 letters, put an S in the end, occurred. So, you know, and her statement was that, wasn't it? Yet they seem to, I think because all that's been said is that BK was in that area. Obviously, when she's gone, because no one contacted her, which was a surprise to her, I channeled her energy. She actually said, I saw him, but in her statement, she said that it was a guy of this thing. Anyway, I want to ask, are any of the people coming up now that are not like in the investigation report? So anyone that comes up now that I was a school friend, I was a teacher assistant, and start saying BK's weird, BK's that, anyone, right? From now, not in the police investigation, up to a couple of months, let's say 6 months, will they be honest, every single one of them? Or do we take that some are there just for a claim of fame and really use our discernment? So yeah, some will only be saying stuff to claim fame. Look at that. The 6 of Pentacles, the High Priestess is confirming my confirmation, and the Page of Wands, really to have that little spark of recognition. The High Priestess holding of the secrets is my confirmation, and the give and take for whatever they can get from doing that. Now, in my first channeling, I said, if the case, one of the reasons the prosecution also about not going forward, not in their favor, is because the chief detective, the chief that's on this, has left, gone somewhere else, there's something like that, and that is turned out to be true. In my last reading, I felt that the crime scene process, the way they investigated the crime scene, was a flop and not done in the best way that a very senior or professional would do it. Maybe entry to whatever way. And the knife sheath was found 4 hours later. So I want to ask, was the one detective who led this case, put on this case to lead it, was he senior and experienced enough for this case? I get he was with he was senior and experienced enough to lead the case. Okay. I do get that. One second. Okay, so he was senior and experienced enough to lead the case, but there was something that was new to him, and I think it's location wise. So I don't know if he newly moved into the area, something around that. I think he's actually moved out of the area wherever he's gone to work right now. I get that psychically, but there's something. So he was experienced enough, senior enough to lead the investigation, and there might have been a squabble about this, by the way. internally. But on that note, he was a newbie in terms of something to do with this. It could be the location, the area, you know, he newly moved, but there's something around the way to communicate and put something together that seems like he was a bit new to. Okay, now let's go on to the other questions I've got, which obviously the questions are to actually I need to listen to more of the documents to bring up a bit more. If you're enjoying this, please do like, subscribe, and let me know that this is the case that you're enjoying. So, you know, let's just think about this factually. Forget psychically, forget. There's no proof apart from circumstantial and Amazon that the weapon was a K-bar. To me, there should be, and maybe it's going to be released in the documents, that the injuries are inflicted are from a K-bar, that confirmation weapon. It's not a normal, it's not a box cutter, it's not this, it's not that, right? So it's only Amazon so far, circumstantially, that kind of confirms as facts, true crime, not psychically, that this was a K-bar knife, right? So BK, know-it-all BK, that I, you know, channeled, he's a know-it-all, condescending, a bit of a narcissist, treats women differently to men. We saw that, and I pointed that out in the victim impact statements. People saying that he's not in control, he's in fact in control, because the prosecution don't even have a story, and even if they had a story, he has the true story, because they've shown they've got no idea. Had it gone to trial, if he didn't have that D penalty on him, he probably would have had a laugh, because they would have cooked up a story. And we went through this in the previous read, so do check them out. So he is in control, and we are seeing more. He won't be seeing this, that this is due to the prosecution and law enforcement and all these documents that are coming out. So did this K-bar have a red groove on it? Because usually they have like a red groove, because aren't they proper like hunting knife? Tell you what, I get psychically made. I've got my confirmation card and I saw it, but it didn't fall out. And I'm getting to take it. So it was the Emperor. So it did have a blood groove in it, a red groove in it. The next one is all the footage of what they had in terms of a car that they say was only the white Elantra at that night. Why did it take them so long to arrest BK? Because they had the footage, they must have had the footage pretty straight right away. I mentioned before it was actually confirmed that they were on his back, but this is a dangerous person, right? It's a dangerous person they've just taken 4 people out. So it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't go in straight away. So why didn't they? Why didn't they arrest him right away? I'm getting it was like just like over, I want to say 14 to 20 days later that they arrested him. they didn't quite know what they're dealing with, right? They felt like this is a loner, someone who is, they're not sure where he is, um, something that they're not sure of. Like they had the pinning of the car to him, but at the same time, there's like a risk to arrest him right away, because they felt by showing that they were on his back that he might not take a respite period and X again. There's something also about waiting for the exact right time that they needed him, which was at his family's house. So again, it's a bit strange, but that's what I'm getting. They were also confused about something. They were confused about something. So did they lie or mislead anyone? This could be the public on anything because of this and the arrest. I've got all reversals. Yes, they did. They did around time. They did around what they were looking into versus what they weren't looking into. They did. They also held back a little bit on certain things that they said they were looking into but weren't looking into. They also took a step back. So opposed to looking at a person that could be new that's done this, I think they went to maybe looking at other cases in the area and who could be the suspects in those cases and visited that. But there is a lying and a misleading that they did. Maybe they can ask Amazon. I also, with me saying that, I also say, yeah, they misled in terms of the K-bar, the knife, and I don't know what that is about. So what did they say about the sharp object? They misled the public, they lied, or they misled on the sharp object. Then I think recently I see thumbnails, and obviously this must be the latter amount of documents, that he'd done searches, which I'm not surprised actually, of probably disturbing stuff. So did they take that seriously, like searches on his phone? I presume like some sex kind of freaky control victim not really awake or something. The phone data, maybe searches of Ted. I still think Ted Bundy's his top, but he's not like Ted Bundy, despite them all saying different names. And what about any of the interviews where people said about red flags around him before he was arrested, when they were interviewing people before they arrested him? That's another reason they delayed the arrest, is because they were getting red flags, but they felt like it wasn't really connecting. So did they take seriously the phone data, the searches that they had picked up on him? Okay, so I don't think they took it very seriously. And the main red flags here was about SKs, people who got rid of people and then were still kind of like, these are SKs that are not very, they're not like sorry about it. They were like standing proud that he searched. And it seems like it wasn't totally removed, but they didn't take it so seriously when they um, had an opportunity to do so. So now I want to ask, what about these red flag interviews where people said, you know, I don't know, what did they say? Like he was creepy, he said this to me, he spoke about the Tinder date, for example, those kind of interviews where there was red flags high, raised to them. The reason I'm losing my words is because this thing about why did they take him? Why did they arrest him? Like, I'm getting 14 to 20 days later, seen as they were kind of like they had the car footage. And I've just said the reasons I got, and I can't remember because I was channeling, but there's something else that wants to come through there from. One of the reasons I said was the sharp object tools that they, oh no, they lied and misled on that. But why didn't they arrest him right away? And we got an answer, but it seems like there's more to that spirit wants to share. But at the same time, spirit, I'm being put in the energy where I'm being held back, like there's a gut block. So did they take any of the interviews seriously in the meantime of the investigation, you know, before arresting him? Or were they just, let me say what card I want, hang on a sec. Told to look at this. No, they didn't. So they didn't take those interviews in the time of the investigation as seriously as they should. And to me, that was because they were focused, pretty much focused, felt they had the right person, but they wanted to narrow in and exactly the right time. Those were the cards I got into. So let's ask, were they convinced the video that they saw, even if they saw another car, but they've told us they only saw this and this is the only footage they have, were they convinced it was Kohberger's white Elantra? Or was there some other stuff that they'd seen that made it questionable that he is the only one, or it's his white Elantra, or the Elantra is the only car, or he's the only suspect? Because we know that by them saying suspect one that there was other suspects. So the video footage, were they convinced it was Kohberger's white Elantra, and was that enough for them? If they were convinced fast. I've got a confirmation, but the confirmation is like peeking out. So yes, but there's something that they felt was being hidden here. And the hiding that they felt was that there was no SEX evidence where they felt that it was an SEX motivated crime, and that's what held them back. So they felt like this was SEX motivated, that should be there should be some sign of that, then the Xing happened. But they felt that there was something that was hidden. They couldn't see the car or the plate clearly. And what I get here, when they first did their very first search, they actually kept it wide. It was white Hyundai Elantra, no state or plate numbers. So maybe that's not so convincing. Okay, let's check on how Kohberger is doing right now. And then I'll try and listen to a little bit more and we can see. We've asked a lot of questions. So what am I going to call this thumbnail? Is anyone watching that case with Chris Wolf something Berger? Not Berger. Wolf, long surname, who is apparently alleged redrummed his wife Melissa, whose dad was an SK. It's crazy. I don't even know what I don't even, at one stage there was like, so is this her body? I'm like, just like now, in the last half hour. What was my question? How is Kohberger doing? If you remember in my channeling, despite people saying that he'll be okay, I said don't underestimate the mental torture, especially if God wants to exacerbate that mental torture. So whether it's his OCD, whether it's, the mental constant torture, which reminds me of what I'm going to get to in the Richard Allen. So how is he doing right now? It seems like he's watching his back. It seems like he might be in solitary confinement here. And in that solitary confinement, there's others that are on DEATH row, because usually they don't all keep them together. D row is different, isn't it? He might have a buddy. He is watching his back. I think he's trying to watch something online, or he does have communication with home. Okay, and we get the justice. So I think he's trying to stay balanced by having contact with home or any messages that he's allowed to have, as well as watching his back. He knows that there's some there on D row at the moment, and it seems like there is someone in that sector that he could, and I want to say is more frightened than him, is more like he might have, I don't want to say taken him under his arm, but he's realized that he's not a big swinging gang person. He's probably a bit shorter than him, and so he feels like maybe this guy is a bit naive. I also want to say, although he's supposed to be in solitary confinement, and let's face it, none of us fully properly know, he may be sharing a cell with this person. And so this person actually likes his boundaries. He's not someone like, bend over, BK, I want to do something to you. But I feel like either BK is going to ask to move to a more solitude area that could have more D row, or from where he is that already has D row people on it. So if he's sharing a cell, he may say some stuff like, let's say he takes Olivia's idea and say that they want to do me up the butt, and say there's harassment or whatever, that kind of stuff that apparently happens in jail for relief, so that he can get moved to another block. And I think what it is he knows that block either has bigger cells that are shared, or there might be a possibility for an individual cell. So I would when I say think and stuff, I'm actually telling you typically, psychically, we might hear in time of like some complaints. We might hear like he's transferred, eventually knowing he wanted to transfer, and there might be something about it. Remember, I said that during his jail time, if someone, or prison time, if someone does want to get to him, it's not because of the type of victims like everyone is saying. It's because either he's rattled them, they know he's famous, so it's going to get their name in the news, they're irritated, they want to tease him, that sort of stuff, so it gets more in the news and they're included. So let's look here. So how is he doing? There is some mental suffering with him. His emotions are a bit like, I don't want to say immature, but naive, and can be a bit erratic, especially when it seems with the Six of Swords in reverse that he's getting attention that's unwanted. He doesn't want this attention, this noise that's happening. And he feels like he's a bit alone at the same time, very much in solitary confinement. So that's what I get on him right now as we speak. Yeah, I thought it would be the first card out. I'm not going to go further. Is he planning to do an appeal? Yes. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you in the next one. Take care, stay blessed, and bye for now.